Thank you for everyone who's joined us early. We will be getting started shortly. It is currently 6:50 Pacific time, so we'll get started just after 7 p.m. Give time people get a chance to get in.
I'm just saying something to see if you guys can hear me to test my audio. Is anybody out there?
Yeah, we're here.
Oh, thank you for that. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself again.
I'm here.
Go ahead and give everybody just a couple more minutes to get in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Somebody did try and record. We are recording this and simulcasting it to YouTube Live. So if you are interested in watching this again or sharing this with anybody, you can go ahead and uh, find our YouTube channel. You can search for LAFD CERT coordinators. It's also at youtube.com/. That should be our channel there. Actually, it's our main channel. And that should be the all of our live broadcasts for the last going back quite a while. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight. My name is Patrick Botts Forbes. I am the LAFD CERT Central Bureau Coordinator, and this is our third Wednesday of the month, continuing education training. Um, Hopefully, everyone is having a good night, and thank you for attending, as we thank you for attending every month on the third Wednesday. The purpose of these continuing education trainings are really, I'm sorry, um, let's take a step back. The goal of the community emergency response team basic training, the training that you get from a government agency or program such as LAFD, LA County, some have it done through their emergency management departments, some through a 501(c)(3), some through their sheriff's departments. Really is fundamental training that gets you started on this journey with really the goals of making sure we have community members who have been trained to not become victims during a disaster. The saying is, we don't bring a victim to an incident. When we do get there, either because we're there when the disaster occurs, or it is our community or our work or our immediate surroundings, they train us to do the greatest good for the greatest number in the shortest amount of time, understanding that if the professionals aren't there yet, then you are the first responder. If there's a car crash and you happen to be right there and you can do something about it, help somebody, you can possibly save someone's life. And if there's a major disaster such as an earthquake or a flood or something, what we do during the first hours after the disaster will save lives. After that, when the professionals are able to come up to speed, reinforcements are brought in or mutual aid is brought in, then we can continue supporting the professionals as force multipliers. A professional firefighter with several CERT volunteers or CERT trained members will be able to do more than that one single firefighter by themselves. Now, the purpose of this training is not to provide that training. The purpose of this training is to really give you additional insights into the basic training, adding on top of it what you should have already known, learned in the class, but also reinforcing the basic skills that maybe it was glanced over or sped through or just it didn't dive deep enough. And oftentimes, if you've taken the CERT training once and then you take it again, even though it's the same training, you pick up on stuff that you might have missed the first time. Additionally, several of us have gone on to become EMTs, taken additional incident command system classes, put our skills to use volunteering for other agencies or groups, and we've picked up things that we want to share with you who might not have done that yet. So the purpose of this training really is to give you one example of how this can look. I mentioned in the Eventbrite that we've seen medical treatment at the TARP done many different ways, and sometimes very creatively, sometimes not as well as others, sometimes great. But the one thing we really see in common is that there's chaos. And even the professionals, when they set up a staging area, set up a medical treatment area, um, the first few minutes to hours on scene, it's going to be chaotic, even though they've done this over and over again, because every incident, every time they set up will be different. And you can't say this is the one way that we're going to do it and it's going to go according to plan every single time, because if you know anything about planning, it never goes according to plan. However, what we really want to do is get you to start thinking about pre-planning. Where am I going with this? If I set up the medical tarps, how is it going to look? How should it look? How could it look? Um, if I have problems, how can I adjust it so I can make it work? But you kind of need to know what it should look like, even though it will never look that way, if that makes sense. And so we want to get you to start thinking about these things ahead of time so that when you are put in the scenario, either through training, a drill, exercise, or a real world disaster, you at least, that's not the first time you're thinking about it. So if you think about the CERT training as a toolkit of basic skills that you've learned, you can add this into your toolkit or expand upon your toolkit and be better equipped. We want to give you more resources, because when you are there doing this, things will go off the rails. And the more resources you have, and that may not be physical resources, people, personnel, equipment, but training and ideas and thoughts and concepts, these resources will help you get back on track when things have gone sideways. Additionally, we've set up a drill for this Saturday. So the hope is that you take this training and then you can come to our training on Saturday and actually put this into action and see how it actually is. Because a PowerPoint slide, a presentation can only do so much. You actually have to be there. You actually have to do it. You actually have to go hands-on. And then you have to see how things can go off the rails in order to understand even how to conceptualize how this is going to really look during a disaster. So this Saturday, July 19th, 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., if you are in the LA area, or not even in the LA area, but you still want to come to this, we're going to do medical treatment at the Tarps. It's going to be hosted in the Westchester area. It's near LAX. Um, Wright Middle School, thanks to our battalion 4 coordinator, Jose Morataya, has agreed to let us host the training there. We're not going to be in the campus, but on the side of the campus. Um, the address is on the screen as you can see it, and we'll have this information later on as well. There is a QR code here, an Eventbrite link. If you go ahead and sign up, just RSVP, so you'll get the emails and any updates about it. Please be there before 9 a.m. We want to get started. We want to get going. We are planning to have 3 run-throughs of this drill, and if we start late, we're not going to be able to complete all of them. We will end on time. That is our promise to you. But if people show up late and we get late, started late because they're still coming in, then you can only blame your fellow volunteers for that. So to really begin, as we talk about the medical tarps and start doing medical treatment, um, it kind of begs the question, when does CERT do medical treatment? When we do the refreshers, we do the drills, we kind of see the worst case scenario where we have a major disaster such as an earthquake, and we're setting up a medical treatment area because the fire department hasn't gotten there yet and has not been able to do so. But the reality is especially in LA City, which is over 600 square miles, um, the fire department can't be everywhere at once. And so there's a lot of nuance to this, but if we break it down, when does CERT do medical? And that's, well, if the professionals aren't there, and you're the first person there, and it's safe to do so, and you do after the initial triage, then you're going to begin doing medical treatment. Now, it's to say if you're at the first person at the scene of a car crash, you happen to be right there, and there's one person injured, your triage is pretty much looking at that one person and determining they need medical care. If, however, and this isn't, this scenario will never happen, but you're walking by a building and there's some sort of reason that you need to go in there and there's multiple people injured, you can begin the triage with multiple victims there, and you're going to identify who needs to be prioritized based on the start triage method or whatever triage method you are performing. That's almost never going to happen. What's more likely to happen is, however, you're in your community and there is a disaster, earthquake, for example, and you and your fellow volunteers get together and say, okay, we need to find out how bad this is. We need to start seeing how we can do the greatest good for the greatest number in the shortest amount of time before the fire department gets here, or start that process because um, if you can stop someone from bleeding to death, someone can bleed to death in a couple of minutes if it's severe enough. And if you can stop that bleeding, the fire department's 5 minutes away, you can possibly save that person's life uh, because 5 minutes is longer than 2 minutes. Now, what we've seen happen is a question of where are we in relative to that incident. If it's an earthquake, we're in it. If it's a car crash, a train crash, a burning building on the other side of town, we're not going there. But if it's immediately in front of us, then we're close enough to that initial incident that we can possibly do something good for that incident, for those people, those survivors. Um, where are we going to take them, on the other hand? If you have a location in your neighborhood or community, you say it's going to be at this park or at this school, and it's a mile and a half away from where someone's injured, you're going to have to carry that person mile and a half to from where they were injured to the medical treatment area. On the other hand, if it's right there and you set up the medical treatment right there, then you don't have to carry them that far. And this was a question that came up during the refresher is where are we setting up that medical treatment area? And during one of the incidents, they set it up early. They set up the medical treatment area close to the staging area, not knowing how far away the building that they were going to search and triage and then transport from was. And it didn't make sense to carry people all that distance. Other instances, they did set it up closer, but that was through the trial and error and hearing about what the first team did and their mistakes. So I can't tell you where you're going to set up or do medical treatment. These are, again, concepts that you have to think about. How far are we going to carry somebody? Where are we going to put them? Where are we going to treat them? And then how can we get them out of there? And that is a major issue. If you put a treatment area inside the middle of a park and it's 1,000 feet, half a mile, whatever from the street, you're not going to get a rescue ambulance to come all the way into the park if they can't get in there. And now you're going to have to carry people from that treatment area to the street where the rescue ambulance, or worst case scenario, someone's pickup truck or station wagon or whatever. So it's concepts you have to think about as well. We want to make sure that the medical treatment area is close enough to the incident, but also close enough to evacuate, transport people out. The treatment tarps, the medical treatment tarps, are really tools. They are tools to help you organize and visually identify where you're going to take survivors or people who need medical treatment. And they're color coded red, yellow, green, and black similar or identical actually to the triage tapes that you might be used to using and the way you triage and start triage, where you identify somebody who is immediate, meaning they need to go to the hospital in the next 60 minutes or they will die. That person is immediate or color-coded red. Someone who is yellow color-coded or delayed, they're unable to self-evacuate. You called out to them and they didn't come to you, so that indicates something's wrong. And they might be stable right now, but for some reason they didn't get up. They could be injured. They could be, this was a question that came up is, what if you have a parent with a child who is immediate? Is that parent, when you call out, going to get up and leave their child? The answer is no. Are they walking wounded? By definition, they did not get up and leave when you or come to you when you called them. And so therefore they are delayed by definition. And they might not be injured, but you don't know why they didn't get up and leave. And so you have to, by definition, um, tag them yellow. And again, if the child is going to go to the hospital, um, the parent's not going to leave the child. When you do call out during triage, you're going to start where you stand. You're going to call out, if you can hear the sound of a voice come to me, anyone who does, as you quickly visually assess them and determine they're not severely injured, they are by definition walking wounded or color-coded green. The other term for this is minor. I, as I've said in several of my trainings, do not like that word because minor can mean many things. A child is technically a minor. So when you start talking about minors, are you talking about children or are you talking about walking wounded? So I prefer the term walking wounded or green tag. And the color coding just makes it easier. Red, yellow, green, and black, they're universal, at least in the United States, for triage. So as they come towards you, you look them up and down. If they're, barely able to walk, pale, sweating, or diaphoretic, they're probably injured pretty severely. Somehow they managed to make it to you, but they will probably collapse shortly. And so you don't want to just push them off as green or walking wounded. You actually want to have them sit down and then reassess them really quickly, make sure they're not about to die on you. Unfortunately, you are going to come across those who are color-coded black or deceased or expectant. And if it's inside the incident, you're going to leave those people where they are. Unfortunately, they didn't survive. They become victims of the disaster or whatever incident, and they passed away. Maybe because of the incident, or maybe because of something else. That's a police matter. You're not going to tamper with them. You're not going to do more than assess, verify. They're not breathing. They have no pulse. You can't get them to breathe again. And now you're going to tag them black and move on. However, if you are doing treatment at the TARP and someone does pass away on you, they do die on you, then you don't want to leave them on your TARP. Um, Probably the worst thing that could happen for people who are already in bad shape, panicking, scared, injured, in pain, having difficulty breathing, whatever, possibly circling the drain themselves, is to see other people die and then stay there and be left there. So you want to actually move these unfortunate souls or bodies off of your tarp and get them to another tarp, the black tarp. Um, Make sure you secure it. It's a shame we have to say this, but unfortunately, some people will loot the dead and or possibly desecrate them. So make sure that wherever you put the deceased, it is secure. Um, when you set up these tarps and you have the injured come to you, or you transport the survivors to the tarps for medical treatment, It's where CERT is going to be, or the fire department for that matter. This is standard protocol. It's where you're going to monitor them, stabilize them, prioritize them, and you're going to transport from there. You want to get the people on the red tarp to the hospital because, as my definition states, they need to go to the hospital in the next 60 minutes or they're going to die. And if you don't have a plan for getting them off your tarp, I think unfortunately that's where CERT kind of really um, doesn't develop that in the training. And so we really want to talk about what is the end goal of the medical tarps. And that has to be that you get them off the tarp. And we can see examples of how the fire department uses these tarps. You can see here, this is a screen grab or was probably a news helicopter, observing a staging or a medical treatment area being set up. This was set up obviously with no um, injuries, no patients on the tarps. It was set up in anticipation of needing them. And we've seen this before where fire department gets there, it's a say a big rig rollover. This is the one I saw at least. They set up the tarps thinking this is going to be bad. We're going to have multiple injuries, and then they didn't need to use them. There were no injuries, and that's the best case scenario. Is you set up these tarps and you never have to use them. Um, what unfortunately may happen, especially during a large scale disaster, is that we don't even have the tarps out and we already have a bunch of people who are injured and need to be treated. So we really want to talk about as we think about when we need to set up these medical tarps? When do we need to set up a medical treatment area? It's about the process and paperwork and planning and train and tracking. Um, we want to think about this ahead of time because when you have a team bringing out 30 survivors or injured people out of a building, that's not the time to start thinking about the process of how do we track people. It's ahead of time. It's like, okay, we have something going on. Let's start putting together the basics of a plan. Let's think about this. Where are we going to put the tarps? How are we going to track the survivors at the tarps? How are we going to track where they came from and where did they go? Again, that's the goal, is to get them off the tarp. But we need to make sure we know where they went because if someone comes looking for someone who was injured, did they get transported to the hospital? Did they go home with a relative or a friend? Did they go to, or did they not come out of the building at all? They're still trapped in there. Um, and then where are we taking them? They have to go somewhere. Are they going to go to the local hospital? How are they going to get there? Are we taking them in? Are we waiting for the fire department to transport them? Do we have neighbors or other volunteers who can transport them to the hospital? If you're um, first person on scene of a disaster and the fire department's 15 minutes out and you have someone who needs to go to the hospital right now, is that a viable option to throw them in the back of someone's pickup truck and start getting them towards that hospital? Or you're on the phone with 911 and they're telling you fire department's 15 minutes out. Can you say, hey, can I throw them in the back of my pickup truck and meet the fire department somewhere closer? Go to them. These are the thought processes you have to have because if you wait, it might be too late for that person. Now, one of the things we have to talk about is also tracking them. When we train, and this is what I harp on all the time is training syndrome, is we often train with a triage card that's you have someone who is not injured, an actor, who has a card that says what their injury is. And inevitably, as we watch these, they end up just showing the card to the responder, and the responder just reads off the card, and then, okay, you're immediate. Go sit over there. Go lay down on the tarp over there. That's not how this is actually going to unfold in real life. You may come across someone who is unconscious. They can't tell you anything. You need to assess them, you need to triage them, and if they're unconscious, they're immediate. You don't know why they're unconscious. Make sure they don't have any life-threatening bleeds. Make sure they're breathing if you have to open their airway. But you don't know why they're unconscious. And they can't tell you why they're unconscious because they are unconscious. So imagine now that unconscious person arrives at your red tarp. Where did they come from? If this is a community or neighborhood response to an earthquake, and you get this unconscious person to the hospital, when their family members come looking for them, there's nothing to go on that's going to help you tell their family, unless you find maybe an ID on this person, um, where their loved one went because you're not tracking them. And so if you look at what the professionals have, and you'll see on this next slide, on the left side, these are triage tags. And you can buy these. They're about $2 to $5 each. I would not recommend buying them, but this is what the professionals have. And you'll see what they have on there is an identification number and a unique identification number. What we tend to use in CERT are, if you look on the right side, these are flagging tapes or triage tapes. And you can mark someone as red, green, yellow, or unfortunately black, but it doesn't provide that tracking number that the triage tags do. And so the previous Central Bureau Coordinator, Carolyn Burleson, had this idea of using Tyvek wristbands. These are the wristbands you get when you go to an event to confirm that you're supposed to be there, that you paid admission, or that you're part of the event. Um, you can get these with or without numbers on them, and these are unique numbers. And so if you have the numbers on there, there's your triage tag. It's color coded, so you know, okay, this person's red, green, yellow, black, and here's a unique identifying number for them. And if you start using that from the very beginning, and you tag every single survivor that you come across and document it, you can reverse find where, hey, there was somebody on 6th and Commonwealth that uh, went missing. Do we have anybody from that? Oh yeah, one of the teams found someone unconscious on 6th and Commonwealth, and here's their identification number, their tag number. Okay, what happened to tag number 5537? Well, 5537 was taken to the medical treatment area, and 5537 was then transported to Good Samaritan. Okay, this is probably the person they're looking for. Send them to Good Samaritan, and hopefully they can find their loved one there. When you're tracking patients or you're tracking survivors, the red or immediate tarp is going to be your focus. That's where, again, people are going to go if they're circling the drain. If they have to get to the hospital in the next 60 minutes or they're going to die, they're going to be on the red tarp. But don't forget about the yellow and green tarps as well. Someone might be injured pretty severely, but they test as yellow. Their capillary refill is normal. Their breathing is normal. They're able to follow directions. They have something wrong with them. That's why they didn't get up and leave, but it hasn't caught up with them. You have them sitting on the yellow tarp for an hour and a half, and now that internal bleed that they have is starting to get worse. And now they go into shock, or they're having trouble breathing, or whatever. They now need to become immediate and go to the red tarp. If we're not paying attention to them, that person may die on you on the yellow tarp. Green tarp again, maybe they get worse, maybe they go to yellow. um, or they were fine. Children, especially. Children compensate well until they don't. So you might have a child who's been injured. They got up, walked out, they seem fine, and then all of a sudden they aren't. They don't go from green to yellow to red. They go from green to red to black real fast. And so you can't forget about the yellow and green tarps. You need to pay attention to them. But again, your focus is going to be on the red. It's a balancing act. And if you're the only person there, you can only do so much. But try and remember that if you have a lot of resources, dump them all on the red tarp and forget about the green and yellows. Um, if you're setting up a neighborhood treatment area, what you can expect to happen is that people who are lightly injured, they have a cut, they have a scrape, they have something, they bang their shin, they hit their head, they're going to come wanting help. And that's a good thing because if we have medically trained people, we want to assess these people and make sure it's not something worse. If you can treat minor injuries before they become infected, before they bleed out, before whatever, you can stop that person from going to the hospital. And a lot of injuries will be minor at the very beginning, but if they go untreated, they will become infected, they will become worse, and that will lead to a medical emergency. So the people who come from the neighborhood and go to the green tarp to get treated, they can typically be treated and then released. The people on the yellow tarp, um, maybe they're going to get better, and maybe they can go home or they can go with a loved one, but you need to monitor them, and they should be monitored after the fact. Give some sort of care directions. Hey, if your loved one becomes dizzy, starts getting sick to the stomach, starts throwing up, loses consciousness, call us. Get us over there so we can reassess them or bring them back here if they're not feeling good again. But they don't necessarily need to go to the hospital. Again, I can't give you every single scenario, but your hope is that you can get the people off the yellow tarp back home or get them to the hospital if that's the other direction they need to go. What you want to do is you want to track the people on the tarp, your patients on the tarp, track them on a clipboard. Um, in addition, your immediates, that's guaranteed these people are going to go to the hospital. You don't go on the red tarp and then go home. Unless you were mistriaged in the first place, your direction is if you're on the red tarp, you're going to go to the hospital. And so we want to track how many people are on the red tarp and the nature of their injury and prioritize which ones are going to go first. Again, these are the wristbands. They come in sheets. They're relatively inexpensive. You could probably get like 1,000 for $20. So, when you're setting up your tarps, you really want to consider that you're probably going to have a full tarp. What you don't want to have happen is you don't want to have a team drop your first patient in the middle of the tarp because then where's your second patient going to go? Where's your third? Where's your 20th patient going to go? You want to start placing them at the corner and you want to place them head to toe. You want to lay them on their back so they can get assessed. Um, but you don't want to have them head to head. Um, and you want to have some distance between them because as you're treating them, you're going to have to move around. You're going to have to assess them. Unfortunately, when people are injured, especially if they're badly injured, sometimes they throw up. If you have someone throw up next to your head, it's contagious. I hope I don't have to explain that more. Um, so head to toe, head to toe, head to toe, and then the alternating row is going to be the opposite direction, so you don't have two heads right next to each other. And again, you want to have space so that the responders on the tarps can actually treat them and have room. You don't want to try and fit 20 people onto a 10-person tarp. If you have 20 people on a single 10-person tarp, that's beyond the scope of this. But you're going to have to get creative. So this is an example of how you would lay 10 people out on a 10-person tarp. You're going to start at one corner. You're going to have them about anticipate if someone's about 6 feet tall. The tarps are typically the SOS ones are 16 by 20. I've seen others that are 15 by 20, but roughly about that size, maybe 20 by 20 on the outside. So you can fit about 10 people on there. If they're about 6 feet tall, about 3 feet separating them, and then about 2 feet between them. And you can find tarps that are already laid out for you, lining these people up so you can identify, but you're going to see that they're generally going to be sequentially numbered so you can quickly figure out where your patient's going to go. As you can see here, if you drop someone in the middle of this tarp, it's going to mess up the predetermined order of where you're going to put people. So try and keep that in mind as you're bringing people in. Don't let your teams just drop people anywhere and run away. They will do that. I guarantee you, during the drill on Saturday, we will tell people as they're coming in to do something wacky for you. So you have to learn how to control your tarp and put people where you need them to go. When do you set up the tarp? Um, as in the picture earlier, we showed you, the fire department sets it up when they think they're going to need them. And if you have resources and time and you have a major incident, it's better to have the tarps set up and positioned close to where you think you're going to need them, than wait until it's too late. Because if you have 10 people coming out of a burning building and you need to put them somewhere, you're going to put them somewhere and you're not going to tell them to all get up and move so you can put down the tarp underneath them. Um, but also don't waste resources setting up these tarps ahead of time. If you have 5 people on your team, those 5 people are better spent helping others than setting up a triage area or treatment area, before you even have anybody out that are going to come to it. These tarps should be close to a mass injury incident. If you have a burning building, set the tarps up close to the burning building. However, if you have a pre-plan for your neighborhood and you have an ideal location that's central to that neighborhood, and you're going to have people come here, you're going to have teams bringing people here, then something central to a population mass, a park or a pocket park or something like that makes sense. But also plan that you need to get people off the tarps. Don't put them in the middle of a park with no roads, no streets nearby. Put them close to the street. And the immediate tarp is going to go as close to the street as possible. Obviously not in the street, but you want to minimize that time it takes to carry someone off the tarp and into an ambulance or into the back of a truck. So you want them to be as close to that exit point. If it's a dirt road versus a major street, the major street is going to be probably a better location for your tarps because it's going to be harder to get an ambulance on a dirt road than it is a major street. And this also came up at the refresher we had last month, is they set the tarps up on uneven ground. They set the red tarp up on like rocks. You want to place the tarps somewhere flat, somewhere that's safe and free of hazards. Could you imagine you put your red tarp on something rocky? There's a rock underneath it that's jutting up, and you have a team that comes in, they're carrying someone, a couple blocks, and they unfortunately drop the person on the tarp, quite literally, and their head hits the rock that your tarp is sitting on. You might have killed that person. So be aware of what's around you and try and find the best location for your tarps. Again, flat, safe, free from hazards. Close to an exit point for the ambulance, but also close to where you're going to have the injured people coming from. This is an example of how you can lay out the tarps. I like this. I like planning ahead. I have, I would love to have a team of 20 people. It's unrealistic, unfortunately. But if that is the goal and we train as a community and we start training people up and training together, it could be realistic. You're going to have that street. That's probably going to be the first tarp you set up as the red tarp. In fact, I will straight out say, set up the red tarp first. If you don't need the yellow tarp or the green tarp and you don't get them, you're probably going to need the red tarp. And so getting that up first, and if it's just you and a couple other people in a red tarp and you don't have the other tarps out, that's fine. If you have more time and you have more resources and you have the space and you know that you're going to have more injured coming, then you can start setting up the other tarps. What I want to prioritize if I'm doing this is I want to make sure that I have some sort of plan to deal with the chaos. And this is how this is designed, is I want to have all of my incoming come in one direction. I don't want them, I'm going to instruct them, do not come from all directions. You need to come through me if I'm the treatment group supervisor. I want to see all the survivors, the injured coming in, all the patients. I want to know what I have, and I want to know that they're going to the right place. So I'm going to reassess them as they're coming in, and I'm going to make sure that they go to the right tarp. If they have a yellow tag on them or they have a red tag on them, I want to make sure they're going to the right tarp because maybe they come over with a yellow tag. I look them over and like, you look pale. Yeah, you have a capillary refill of 4. Go sit down on the red tarp over there because you probably won't be standing for that much longer. I don't care if you've already been tagged yellow, you're going over the red tarp. And then my scribe is going to document. Hopefully, we have the wristbands. If they don't, we're going to put a wristband on them with a number. Okay? It's red wristband. Number is 3557. Scribe's going to write that down. What time did they come in? And possibly where did they come from? If I have a red tarp leader, I'm going to say go check in with if a team is bringing my patient in, go check in with the red tarp leader. They're going to place you on the tarp, reassess you as well. And so by controlling entry, and setting up that red tarp first, and then putting people in place to process and track my patients coming in, I can better control the chaos. Even if I have 15 people come out all at once and get dumped on me. At least I've tried to create that process. If, however, you have 15 people show up on the tarp and there's 2 people there, you're going to miss things. You're going to lose track of people. You're not going to know what you have. I can't say that you will have enough resources. I can almost guarantee you will not have enough resources. I can almost guarantee you that you will not have enough personnel to handle all the injured patients that you're going to have. But if you do and you set it up correctly, that process is going to help you control the chaos and identify who you have, prioritize who needs to go first, and then track where they went after. And so what I want to do is I want to have hands-on responders on the tarps. First thing first, if there's a body on a tarp and it's bleeding out, I want to have someone who can stop that bleeding, bandage it, and hopefully save this person's life. If you have someone on the tarp who is starting to have trouble breathing, or they're unconscious, I want to have someone who can deal with that person first. Might be me, might be my scribe, if we're the only 2 people there. But if I have more people, That's what I'm going to staff first is that tarp. Next, I'm going to put a tarp leader and scribe. Again, who is coming in? Where are they going? Where am I putting them? Let's make sure this is orderly. I guarantee you, your teams will drop patients in the middle of the tarp and run away from you. So start that order, start at a corner, and then start placing people head to toe. Um, Yellow tarp. If somebody has to get elevated, that person, that tarp leader needs to come to the treatment group supervisor and say, hey, I have someone on my tarp, on the yellow tarp. They're not doing well. This is why their capillary refill is now 4 seconds. They're very pale. They're starting to sweat. We need to move them to the red tarp. And I, as the group supervisor, will go, yes, I agree entirely. What's their triage tag number? Okay, move them to the red tarp. Take them to the red tarp leader, and they'll deal with where they're going to put them. And then finally, my setup. I'm the treatment group supervisor. I'm the last one position being set up. Um, but this will help you control the chaos. Scribe as well, radio operator, so I can communicate. I have 15 people on the red tarp. I need to get um, triage tag number 1157 and 3321 out of here right now. If we can't get an ambulance, I need some sort of transport because they are going to die if we don't get them in the next 10 minutes out to the hospital. If you are on a tarp and you're the tarp responder and a body shows up, hopefully it's breathing, hopefully it's not bleeding to death, but that's what you want to find out is you're on the red tarp and a patient comes in. They're carried in by another team. They're unconscious. You're going to treat any obvious immediate life threats. They get dropped on the tarp and they're squirting blood. Now, that's not to say that they weren't treated in the field for that life threat. A tourniquet was put on them. They were transported. They're now on your tarp. You go look at them, and the area surrounding that tourniquet is bright red. And you go take a look, and oh my God, that tourniquet has slipped off and they are bleeding out. I'm going to put another tourniquet on them. I'm going to try and stop that bleeding. Because if I don't, this person's going to die on me. This person's going to go from red to black. This person is going to, now I have to figure out where I'm going to move a dead body to. When I already have a bunch of other people coming in. I want to keep this person alive, stabilize them. If they're having trouble breathing, or they're not breathing for some reason, they brought a person over to you and they on the tarp and you check and they're not breathing, I'm going to try and open their airway. I'm going to try and make sure that this person is alive so I can treat them and stays alive. I'm then going to perform a head to toe assessment on them. I'm going to find out if they have any secondary injuries. You went through, if you took the CERT training, you know how to do a head to toe, but it's a good idea to practice this again. You're going to start at the head and you're going to palpate from the head down to the toes. You're going to look at the back, see if they have other injuries that were not identified during the primary assessment. And this is going to happen. You're going to have someone who has a major bleed. They put a tourniquet on them. They took them to your tarp. You're now looking at them and, oh, they have a bullet hole in the back. Or there's a knife sticking out of their back and they're laying on the knife. Or there's something else. Their knee is facing the wrong direction. Whatever it is, you want to identify any secondary injuries. And then your job is to prioritize stabilizing these injuries as much as possible. What you're going to be focusing on, impalements, they have a branch sticking out of them. How do we stabilize the branch so it doesn't move around? They have an open wound, they're bleeding out. Can we stop the bleeding? Put direct pressure on, tourniquet on, pressure dressing, whatever. And if they're starting to have any airway issues, make sure you mitigate those. Um, One problem that we have is that we leave people on their back. We need to assess them on their back, generally speaking. But if they're unconscious, do not leave them on their back. I mentioned this earlier. People who are severely injured will vomit. If they are on their back and they vomit, they will aspirate on that vomit and they will die. And this has happened many, many times to people who were relatively stable. They ended up vomiting. They were on their back. They aspirated. They died. So anyone who's unconscious, assuming you don't suspect a neck injury or spinal injury, you're going to put them into left lateral or recovery position. That was in the basic CERT training on how to do that. Put them on their side, generally facing on their left arm or on their left side, with the knee up and their arm out so that they support their body. But that way, if they vomit, they will hopefully vomit out to the side and not choke on it. People who are conscious, generally, you're going to let them rest in the position of comfort, and that's going to be different depending on the injury. Someone has a dislocated shoulder. They're not going to want to lay on that dislocated shoulder. Also keep people warm. Keep your patients warm. If somebody is going into shock, their body can't regulate temperature anymore. And so the best thing that we can do is keep people warm. If you're laying your tarps on grass or dirt, um, it will pull heat away from them. So you need to be careful about people going into hypothermia. Even if it's relatively warm out, the potential is there. And if you're putting people on cement for some reason, again, it might be too hot. You could get people who are burning, or if it's too cold, going into hypothermia. So having blankets, having space blankets, having wool blankets available to keep people warm is going to allow them to last longer on your tarp, giving you time to get them out of there. Um, if you discover someone is getting worse, you assess them, and your second assessment, they're now breathing fast. Their capillary refill is taking longer, whatever. Let your TARP leader know that this person is getting worse. Does your patient know good to say, oh, you're getting worse. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm just going to move on to the next patient, and then they die on you. So let somebody know. Um, Try and go through your tarp in an orderly fashion. We saw how they're potentially laid out here, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's designed so that you can go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's going to be difficult, especially when you have a bunch of new uh, patients coming in, a bunch of new survivors coming in. You're going to try and control the chaos. Don't forget people. Someone who's on your tarp and hasn't been looked at, they could be getting worse. They could be dying on you, and there might have been something you could do about it, or that you need to reprioritize them to get them out sooner. But if you weren't looking at them and reassessing them, you might miss something. If you're the tarp leader and a patient arrives, you're generally speaking not going to be hands-on, especially if you have people on the tarp. If you are a tarp leader and you don't have responders on your tarp, you're going to be hands-on. That's not a good place to be, especially if it's the red tarp. Um, but when a patient comes in, a survivor comes in, is carried by a team or walks in, you're going to visually reassess them and confirm they are at the right tarp. If someone's coming over to the yellow tarp and they are pale and they're sweating and they're breathing fast, and you pinch their nail bed and it takes 4 seconds to refill, they're at the wrong tarp. If you're at the red tarp and someone comes in with a team and they're like, yeah, they're immediate, and you look them up and down and you don't see any signs that they're immediate, take a little bit longer to reassess. We get assessment in the field wrong all the time. Sometimes when we train, we tell people, if you suspect someone is immediate, it's a gut feeling, and you have 20 other people you need to assess, assess them wrong. Err on the side of getting it wrong because they will get reassessed again. Someone comes over to your red tarp, you look them up and down, you check them, they're able to follow directions, they look like they're breathing fine, they're not breathing too fast or too slow. You check their capillary refill, it's under 2 seconds. You ask them, why are you here? You ask the team, why are you bringing them here? Oh, they're pregnant. Okay. Well, that doesn't mean they're immediate. It means they're pregnant. Take them over to the yellow tarp. But you decide that they are at the correct tarp. Get their patient tag number and time in. Make sure the scribe documents this. You want to know how many patients you have and who they are and what time they got here and what time they leave. And direct the placement. Again, if you're coming to the drill on Saturday, we will tell people drop yourself in the middle of the tarp just to mess with them. Make sure that you are keeping your tarp orderly, or you're just gonna have bodies all over the place and it's gonna be a mess. And then you won't know who am I assessing next because there's 15 bodies on the tarp and I don't remember which ones I've even looked at. If you're the treatment group supervisor, you hopefully you're giving direction to the teams in the field. If someone is coming to the medical treatment area, you're bringing someone to the medical treatment area, let us know ahead of time. Give us a patient tracking number. If you have a tag on them, give us that tag number. That way, your scribe can start writing this stuff down. You have someone, team bring in someone who's unconscious, and they radioed ahead and said, we're bringing in tag number 1153, and we found them at this location. They're unconscious, but breathing. Okay, your scribe already has this documented. They get here, you reassess them, 1157. Okay, yep, take them over to the red tarp, time in this time. That's already done. Takes a little bit of load off and gives you a heads up of what's coming in. If you have 15 people coming out at the same time, it's going to be a cluster. It's going to be pure chaos. It's going to be difficult to visually reassess everything and track them. So the more heads up you have about it, the better. You already know, okay, we're going to have 10 people coming to the red tarp. These are their numbers. All right, we can anticipate this. We can give the red tarp heads up. Hey, we have 10 people coming in, 10 immediates coming in. Start figuring out what you're going to do about this. Um, Again, visually reassess. Make sure this person's tagged red. Are they? Are they immediate? Make sure that you track their number. So okay, red tarp 1137 and the time they came in. And take them over to the red tarp leader, or there's no one on the yellow tarp, go put them over there, um, and then we'll get to them as soon as we can. Or if you're having a community area, people are going to walk in. Hey, go over to the green tarp. We'll be with you as soon as we can. How are you going to track the people? Every treatment tarp should have one of these. I would say use Form 5, CERT Form 5, but it looks like this. You're going to need a lot of these. And this is just takes up way too much space. I like this. You can see the website on here where I downloaded this from. Another CERT team out there. They reinvented the wheel. I like this one better. You're going to use this one. You're going to use this one. It doesn't really matter. Have an idea. Have these forms pre-printed. But with this form, you can track a lot more people than you can on this form. But on this form, you can put a lot more information on them. Now, maybe you're going to have a mix of them. This is going to be the form that the treatment group supervisor has tracking where people are. This is what the TARP leader is going to have or their scribe is going to have, so they have more information about them. Figure it out. Whatever you want to do, pre-plan it, have an idea, have an end goal. What am I doing at the medical treatment area? What is my goal? My goal is to get everyone off the tarps. If I have 10 people on the tarps, if I have 30 people on the tarps, I need to get them off my tarps. If they're on the red tarp, they're going to the hospital. Either they're going to the hospital in an ambulance or they're going to a medical treatment area, or if it's say an earthquake, you hear the fire department has set up a treatment area or something, that's where they're going. Are they going in the back of an ambulance? Are they going in the back of a pickup truck? I don't care. Well, I do care, but I'm going to do what I can do. And if I don't have ambulances available, I don't have a way to contact the fire department reliably, or they're not able to get me an ambulance in time, and this person needs to go to definitive care now, then I'm going to see if I can get a neighbor to take them and communicate this back to your incident command or your staging area, whatever, whoever your command and control is. They don't know what you have. You do. Let them know, hey, I have three people, three patients, three immediates that are bleeding to death right now. We've tried to stop the bleeding. They're in shock. They're having trouble breathing. I need to get to them the hospital, get them to the hospital right now, or they're going to die. Figure out a way to get me transport for these people. If they're on the yellow tarp, are they going to go to the red tarp? Or are they going to go home? Are they going to go with someone else? Figure that out. Not everybody on the yellow tarp needs to go to the hospital. Not everybody on the yellow tarp should go home by themselves. If they're on the green tarp, they probably walk there because you're probably not taking 10 people who walked out of a building with minor scrapes and scratches over to a green tarp and taking up time and resources for that. But if you're in a community treatment scenario and they walk there, treat them, release them. Tell them if it gets worse, come back. So, if you're in the LA area, I highly recommend you come to our drill on Saturday, 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. It's going to be in Westchester, near LAX. Um, we are going to do exactly what we just talked about. We're going to have the tarp set up. We're going to split the teams in the group into three teams. One team will be the responders on the tarps, and the other two will be survivors. And then we're going to rotate three times. That way, everybody gets to be the responders and try and hope you're in teams one or two, because whenever we do this, inevitably team three, who's the final group of responders, gets screwed by all the people who have been doing this. So, or be in team three and show what a badass you are. I don't care. But come to the drill. If you can go to Eventbrite, LAFD CERT-drill-July 2025.eventbrite.com. QR code on here takes you to the Eventbrite. You're not a computer person, you don't have a cell phone. Just come. Be there before 9 a.m. Parking is available on 80th and Emerson. It's going to be at Wright Middle School. That's WRIGHT Middle School Steam Magnet, 6550 West 80th Street. That's in Los Angeles, 90045. Get there before 9. Please, please, please get there before 9. I don't know how much street parking there is, but I'm tired of people walking in at 10:15 and we're now scrambling to get them signed in before they go up. Well, no, we're going to penalize you if you do that. Any questions?
It's a residential area, so there should be plenty of street parking. And hopefully the parking lot to the school is open. I'm not sure if they're going to leave it open.
Okay, great. So get there early so you can get that street parking and or possibly get in the lot. All right. So I'm going to allow people to unmute themselves. Any questions? We went over a lot. This is really a primer. We want to get you thinking about it. There's no way you can be an expert at this by just listening to this presentation. It takes a lot. Takes a lot doing this, takes a lot of training, but come out to the drill. We're going to walk you through it. We're going to help you get it right. Uh, Jose, was there anything in the chat that was particularly interesting or people any questions that kept
Oh,
coming?
they're just actually people had good conversations between themselves. They were posting stuff, some of the stuff you were presenting. So it's good feedback.
Right.
Patrick,
Yeah, and we'll have the tags out there, the wristbands out there, so you can actually see what they look like. It's not the priority, but it is something that you want to try and get done because tracking your patients is going to be a whole lot easier if you think about how you're going to track them from the beginning than it is, oh, we have 20 people now, we have to figure out how we're going to uniquely identify every single one and track who they are and where they went to.
We have a question,
Yeah.
Patrick. Lisa asking, will you have more of the events like this Saturday at a later date?
We've managed to have a drill every month. I can't honestly tell you what our drill in August is going to be or if there is one, but Chin, who is not here tonight, has been doing a great job of getting our drills scheduled every month. This will be the first
This is
time
the
we
first one,
do,
though.
this is the first time we've done treatment in the tarp in this way. We've done treatment at the tarp several years ago. But I think after seeing the refresher, might have to do this more often. But I can't tell you when the next one is going to be either.
Patrick,
Yeah.
I've thought about this a little bit in the past, and I thought, well, mass casualty event, there will probably be no way to transport people in motor vehicles, and because traffic will be all tied up, traffic lights will be out, people will be yelling and screaming. So I thought about, well, how would you get somebody that had to get to a hospital? And the only thing I could come up with, and I know this sounds funny, but even like somebody who might have a refrigerator dolly, you tie your victim to the dolly and you send them with a couple people uh, a few miles away to the nearest hospital. Things
Well,
like
hopefully the hospital's close.
Well, for example, we live in Mar Vista, and the closest hospital to us would probably be Marina Mercy, which would
Yep,
mean be down to Lincoln Boulevard and then traveling south. But it's like, how else would you get somebody there? And I
yep.
think about things like this.
Yeah, it's definitely good to think about it. The anticipation that there will be total destruction of all the roads, is unrealistic. You will have definitely disruption. Um, Now, what you did mention also is that you're going to have traffic. That may be actually the biggest problem is you have too many people on the roads trying to get out of there, or go in the direction that you're trying to go. But also keep in the back of your mind, if you're taking someone who is immediate, and in shock and has possibly, say, internal bleeding, are you going to sacrifice a couple CERT members to take them? If you only have five CERT members and you have 10 survivors you're treating, are you going to give up two of your CERT members to take one person to the hospital?
I'm
I don't have
figuring
a good answer for you.
I'm figuring that Marcia and I will be the only CERT members that we're going to send a couple of neighbors.
Yeah. But if they don't have medical training, what are they going to do if this person gets worse?
Hope that they get there before the person passes.
Yeah, I think that is the legitimate answer, unfortunately. But it is definitely something to consider.
Yeah, thank you.
This is Cliff. Can I speak up for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Cliff Van Cott, McKinleyville, CERT, north end of the state. In regards to the La Marinda form,
Hmm.
um, the La Marinda part on there that's on the form only takes you to their website. But if you go to the website
And the rest of the
and
fries.
then you go to the
The
tab for
rest of the
train.
fries.
I haven't had any.
Oh, right? Hey, Jose, would you go on mute?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Going back to La Miranda, if you go to their training tab at the top of their site, follow that down to class materials, and then follow that over to CERT forms. They have a variety of useful forms that have been modified, including the victim treatment area form that was demonstrated in the class. It's an easy way to find it. Thank
That's
you.
great. Thank you, Cliff. I haven't I found those forms a while back. I haven't looked at their site since then, but yeah. Thank you for finding that out for us. Any other questions, comments, in honor of Chin, who can't be here tonight? Any
Yeah.
editorials?
Hey,
Keep
Patrick.
your editorials to yourselves.
Hey, Patrick, quick question on managing children's and genders.
Hmm.
So is there any, because for example, in my case, I did the training for shelters, and there is a specific protocol when you get, children's, unaccompanied children's or genders, type of arrangement. So is is that is there any protocol for TARP placements, like children's on one side, adults in another side, something like that? Same
You're
with
gonna
gender.
you're gonna have to err on the protocols of your local. If there are some, and you know them, adhere to them. But also remember, this is a disaster scenario, so you're going to do the best you can with the resources you have. And if you have one person on a tarp and it has to be dedicated, if it's a children's tarp and you can only have children on there, are you and you only have one child, is that really what you're going to be doing? If you have 15 adults and one children or one child? Um, but I'm not aware of a protocol for us. If you have a local protocol, adhere to that.
Thank you.
Hey, Cliff, can you post the information on the chat, please? People are asking for it, the website.
I'm not technically proficient, but I'll give it a shot. What I'll do is I'll put the URL in there and they can click on that.
Thanks, Cliff.
Yep.
Orlando's asking, please explain liability against CERT members moving patients without proper equipment. You've been trained on at the very basic level of what to do. Um, you're going to try not to make it worse. In terms of liability, Good Samaritan is going to be your friend, but understand this. We live in a very litigious society. The Good Samaritan Act says if you do something out of the goodness of your heart, to the level of your training and um, not above it, and you do it without uh, compensation, and that could be a cup of coffee, that you cannot be held liable for hurting someone when you're trying to help them. That does not mean you cannot be sued. If you hurt someone and say they had a spinal injury and you drag them out of a burning building, um, there's a decent chance that they will hire a lawyer and try and sue everybody that they can, including the person who rescued them. Especially if you look like you know what you're doing. And if you're wearing a vest and it has the fire department logo on it, um, they might think you're a firefighter and they're going to sue you and the fire department. And the fire department might go, we don't know who this person is. And you're going to have to figure out how to defend yourself. So I don't want to scare people and say that this is going to happen, but don't do something stupid. Don't go trying to save people that you don't need to save. If you decide this person is going to burn to death or they're going to asphyxiate on smoke and I need to get them out of here, document what you did. That way, if they turn around and sue you, you can say, this is what I did. This is who trained me. I did everything to the protocol. If I did not do this, they would have burned to death or they would have asphyxiated on smoke. And unfortunately, I did not have a chance to do spinal immobilization. I did not know they had a spinal injury. But if I did nothing, they would have died. Hope that makes it clear and didn't scare too many people away. Um, and just look outside at the billboards. How many personal injury attorneys signs do you see? All right. Any other questions, comments?
A quick question. This is Jan. I was just wondering, we have a lot of urgent cares around, and they are pretty fully capable of doing things. If you're far from a hospital, can you bring people to an urgent care, or is that not advised if you can't get them to a hospital?
Do what you can with the resources you have.
Okay.
It's better than nothing.
Okay.
And hopefully they have communications if they need to get people, and they will probably get flooded anyway, um,
Right.
assuming they're even open.
Right.
But it's better than nothing. So I would say know your hospitals, know your ERs, know your urgent cares nearby, um, because you're gonna need to get people somewhere, and urgent care is better than nowhere.
Thank you.
Yes.
Patrick, as a follow-up to that actual question, are we assuming that we can get a hold of 911 and they're going to say Cedars is open or Midway is open, take them there, or we're just going to take them to the hospital we know and find out if the doors are open or not? Is there a way that you've seen in the past where you can determine ahead of time what hospital to take them to?
No. I'll be very frank, no.
Okay.
If you look at how EMS works right now, EMS does have a system, or the hospitals do have a system so that when a rescue ambulance, paramedic ambulance needs to take someone somewhere, they're going to find out who's open, who has space, and
Right.
who is capable of it. If there is a major regional disaster, such as an earthquake, all of those places will be inundated. That system may not work. 911 may not be reachable. Your cell phone may not work. 911 may be on a callback basis. We just don't know what it's going to look like. If it's a fire, probably everything's still going to be working. But if it's an earthquake or a tornado or a hurricane, all bets are off. Um, you're going to it's really do the best you can with the resources you have and the capabilities you have. If you are not in the LA area and you're working with a local town and you have ham radio backup or something, that might be the best way. Look into I'm blanking on the acronym, but it's a ham radio service that works with the hospitals to provide backup communications to them. Um, Become a member of them and have that communication available to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Patrick, did you see the question Stacy has in the chat?
About the emotional impact to responders. Yeah, not really a question, but it is certainly sad. The statement is last session mentioned about the emotional impact to responders seeing and dealing with trauma patients, and that there was a firefighter who took his or her own life. And
Mhm.
yeah, there's unfortunately a disproportionately high suicide rate with first responders. That's firefighters, EMS, police, military. It's hard. And if you see things that you can't cope with and you don't have a coping mechanism, you don't have people to talk to, and you bottle it all up, sometimes, unfortunately, it doesn't go well. Patty.
Yeah, I would just when I've been teaching triage, we debrief after the class.
Mhm.
And this is the same. You debrief the people that you've been working with. After it's all over, you start talking to each other. And if you need to get professional help, you may need to get professional help. But it's terribly important, especially if children are involved or death, to make sure that you talk about it and talk about it and talk about it. And preferably with someone who's been there with you. Otherwise, just anyone who will listen to you. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other thing to keep in mind is that you might have all the training in the world, but you might see something that you are not capable of handling, and it doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. And you need to be willing to open up to others and ask for help. If you saw something that really shook you to your core, and you don't know, you're not sleeping well, you're having nightmares about it, ask for help. Talk to people. There are resources out there. Um, and especially as volunteers, we often don't have access to those resources or just not aware that they exist. So definitely ask and talk to people. Sally.
Yeah, I think it's ACS, Auxiliary Communication Services.
Yeah, in LA City, it's ACS. I was thinking DCS. That's the, again, blanking on what the acronym stands for, but I think that's more countywide.
Patrick,
Oh, sorry, ARES, thank you. Uh, Amateur Radio Emergency Services. They deal with the hospitals.
yeah, Patrick, on the emotional side for the first responders, Nestor had a great follow-up question. I'm looking at the comments here. Nestor, do you mind if I read your comment here? Um, he said on the emotional topic, is there a recommendation about how many hours a volunteer should spend in medical triage or out in the field or anyways versus when they should have a break?
That's a great question. I don't know if there's an answer. I'm not aware of anything definitive. Um, I don't know, Patty, if you've heard anything, but I think it does. It is also based on each individual. Some people can't do more than an hour. Some people can do all day and not be fazed by it. If you're a war veteran who's been being a paramedic, combat medic for the last 20 years, you're gonna be able to handle a lot more than someone who's never seen this before.
Right. And I remember, when we were out at the fires in the Palisades, um, at roll call, we were just told, watch your partners, and if you see people, your partner or people in your team getting, moving slower or just drained, we had professionals at the command post, and you just say, hey, why don't you take a break and go on in, and if you're comfortable, there were people to talk to. So yeah, I think you're out in the field. You just got to watch each other,
Yeah.
and it's okay to raise your hand and say, you know what, I need a breather. And you know, in the Palisades, there were many times I just walked to the ocean edge and just stood there for a while and said, okay, and then I can go back back out in the field. So it is a hard question to answer.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what I was saying about triage, is sometimes you just feel something's off. Err on the side of caution. Something doesn't feel right about my partner. Hey, are you doing all right? So that's the question. In EMT, we learned if you are talking to someone and you suspect they might be suicidal, you have to ask them, are you suicidal? Now, they didn't teach us how to ask that question. They just said that you have to do it. So it requires some sort of tact, and certainly there's better ways to do it. I don't know that I guess I've had to do it before, but it's definitely not something that you're just going to feel comfortable doing. But sometimes all someone needs is somebody to ask them that question. Hey, are you doing all right? Yeah, no, no, I'm not. Or hey, are you thinking about hurting yourself? Uh, actually, so if you feel something is off, ask. And hopefully they'll open up to you. Hopefully they'll trust you enough to open up to you.
Yeah. With regards to amount of hours, there is no, as Patrick said, there is no definitive number of hours one can work. A lot of it depends on your experience. Have you done this before? Do you have, like Patrick mentioned, the military background, or a paramedic, or whatever? The main thing to do is to try and remember that you are human and you will get tired and you'll be overwhelmed. And if you can, go to the ocean, as he said, or some other quiet place away from where things are, and just relax for 15, 20 minutes. Sleep where you can. As we always see pictures of firefighters in the wildland fires, particularly, they're just on the ground wherever doing their nap time because they're exhausted. Well, we're the same, only we don't have their training. So that's really important. And with regards to DL, people who don't communicate afterwards, Patrick alluded to it, is you go up to them and you start talking. And maybe you debrief yourself with them, and they will, over time, probably begin to communicate back to you. Oh, yeah, I had that. Did you see that person over there? Their guts were spilled out. I've never seen such a thing. And you can get them talking about it by you starting out by talking and saying what you saw and how you felt. And that goes back to the other person that was saying, we watch for our partners and the people that we're working with. It's terribly important. We got to take care of each other. And no one is too strong to not need care, especially mental health care. We found that out, unfortunately, by having a lot of our professional rescuers have problems.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important things to also consider ourselves is, am I okay? Am I disregarding my own mental health to help others, or am I dealing with my own problems by ignoring them and throwing myself into the work and probably putting myself at harm? I do want to read someone's comment in the chat. This person said, what helped me was talking with the family and getting closure on that end. The individual did die on me. The family came to me and started sharing stories of what that person loved doing. Now, when I think back on it, I remember the person by what the family shared and not what I had seen. And that is definitely I'm glad that happened. Not that the person passed away, obviously, but that the person who shared this was able to get that closure. Um, you're going to have to do what you can. And like I said, ask for help or talk to people. The worst thing that you could do is shut down and not communicate and ignore all the warning signs that either other people have or that you have. None of us are superheroes. None of us are immortal. None of us are impervious to harm, both physical and mental. If we can't take care of ourselves, we become a victim. And that's one thing that CERT teaches us is do not bring a victim to an incident. If you can't safely help others, then don't. All right. After that, any other questions, comments, or stories they want to share?
This clip again.
Hey, Cliff, go ahead.
California Department of Public Health has a variety of crisis hotlines, warm lines, and resources that people can call if they find themselves in one of these situations where you're considering suicide or just stressing out. And so I put a link in the chat box for people to take a look at that and see if any of those resources work. In addition, Humboldt County, where I'm at, has its own behavioral health crisis hotline for people who are in responder positions to contact peers that can help talk them through stuff. It's a phone number instead of leaving a message and hoping somebody gets back and things like that. You may very well have something like that in LA County as well. Two resource sources that I thought I'd share. Thank you.
Cliff, I don't see the post in the chat. I double check to make sure you actually posted it. And then someone
I
mentioned,
guess I have to hit the button, huh?
yeah, there you go.
Check again.
Thanks, Cliff.
And someone mentioned the 988 number, and that's the suicide hotline. But yeah,
Did that link come
definitely,
through?
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
there it is now. Thank you. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, then thank you everybody for coming tonight. We will do this every third Wednesday of the month, either August or September. I'm going to do a topic on the disaster preparedness mindset. A lot of times we think about preppers, survivalists, taking things to the extreme, but there's a lot of this mindset, at least how I feel that I have it is, um, I don't want to be, I don't want to need help. Um, and so I want to prepare so that I can be the help. And I think that that mindset I can explore that a little bit, talk about how at least I see things. But certainly there's a lot of people out there who think, oh, if there's a disaster, there's going to be all these resources to help me. And that may not be true.
Cliff has his hand up.
Cliff, go ahead.
Thank you. One question. I appreciate the emails about getting these different pieces of continuing education for CERT, but I also know we don't forward that link. I have a team leader of a CERT team up here, and multiple people would like to get on that mailing list. How do I do that? Or how do they do that?
Have them email me. I'll put my email in the chat. lafdcertcentral@gmail.com. My sign up is currently broken, so I need to get that fixed. But once that's working again, then I can start letting people sign up.
CERT volunteer one is broken?
Yeah, it's been broken for a while. It just requires time and effort.
But if they'll email me, if they email you, you'll be able to add them on when it gets fixed? Or do you want to, how do you want us to do this? I don't want to overwhelm you.
I don't have a good answer for you.
Okay.
But I need
Just
to get it
email
fixed.
them.
I'll just continue to monitor and transmit.
Yeah, remove the unsubscribe links from the email if you're going to forward them. Because if somebody unsubscribes you because you forward in that email, I can't get you back on the list.
I'm not going to do that. I'm going to manually look at your list and then tell them at the meeting, hey, go look at this stuff.
There you go. That's
There
a
you go.
good plan.
All right.
All
Thanks.
right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Have an
See you
amazing
Saturday,
day. Thank
Patrick.
you.
See you.